He jumped out of the window in my back. When I ran downstairs and saw him, knowing he was not sober, I thought he was asleep because no terrible injuries were seen on him. And I tried to wake him up. He would not wake up. When the emergency ambulance arrived, and as we were en route to the hospital, they said he was in a stuporous state when a person simply snores. It seemed to me he was snoring. It was a wheeze of some sort, not snoring. On the second day, as he was in acute care, and I was allowed to see him the only time and I saw him, they said it was a harsh scene. But I believe the worst was to come. It is good that I didn't see him dead. I was not allowed to the funeral. When you see a grave, you see neither death nor coffin, either alive or a grave. He was then in bandages, corset, and had high temperature. His hand was hot when I took him by the arm. At that moment I was between what I understood that complicated surgeries they performed and what he was waiting him had survived would be better off for him. I understood perfectly well that he would be numb. At that moment it seemed to be that he had better die. It is terrible, honestly. In the meantime, I felt terrible in these 2 days, when they told me he passed away. Maybe for him it was better, but for whom it is better? For the orphan child? He was a father at least. And now, when there is no time, you are working there and stuff. And I understand that. He was basically a loafer, but he'd better spend the time with the kid. At least some sort of boy communication between two sons of mine. Sometimes it seems this is right. That the kid did not have to see our failing relationship. Probably, I would not want my son to see I am being humiliated. In the meantime, that minimum time that I spent with him neither lets me to see him as a personality, nor for him to see me. I don't know, maybe when he grows up a bit, but again, this is my excuse. He will grow up and I start talking to him. He will grow up and I start asking him, what is going on? Will I not lose him while I am providing him this well of life? Because it is the same myth that I lived with, and the one called father. It seems he was spiritually closer to me. That is, it seemed I know him better.
Теперь это то, что выберем мы, раз выбрать решили.
It is typical for a human being to review and mainly regret about what was done a year or 10 years ago. But unfortunately, it is never feasible to say accurately whether your choice will affect you or kill you. I was a stupid girl. In my age of 17, I did not realize it. He could simply grab me by the feet, pull down from the couch and drag on the floor. He was not a good man, particularly when he was high on anasha. Then, when I gave birth to my daughter, he was still humiliating me all the way and beating me up. I forgave him everything, and I thought that our child was growing. How could it be without a father? Only then I understood that he was an egoist, indeed a sadist. And when I had syphilis, I was virtually cut off. Then I met Yura. We got married a lot later when our son was born. Elder daughter Rita was older and was attending kindergarten. I was working at 2 jobs. I could not braid my hair or hold a cup in my hands were swelling. It was so difficult for me with him. Meanwhile, he was drinking and adulterating. I'm pregnant, plus children, where can I go? Furthermore, I am older than him. I have a daughter. He always used to say, kids, I do not need grandchildren. I won't let them live anyway. Coming home from bazaar or from Almaty, she would throw things. For her, I was nobody. Then they would tell everything to Yura on my back. She very much liked to visit fortune tellers. She used to visit voodoo places. Then a woman said that she was digging a hole for herself and dug a grave. She was killed. Along with her 20-year-old daughter. They taunted the daughter. the mother was decapitated.
Ей 20 лет было. С матерью вместе убили. Над дочкой сильно издевались. Матери голову отрезали. И никогда не помогал, никогда. Вот сейчас.
He never helped me. Sometimes, when he visits the kids, they used to ask him to stay at his place for a while, but he always refused. Meanwhile, the children long for him, and for some reason, they want to get along with him. I brought up my children already. Yura was very mean to me. When he went to Alma-Ata for some business, he hooked up with a woman there, and he had so many mistresses here.
Когда в Алмату ездил, вот там нашел себе женщину и сошелся с ней. А сколько любовниц было, о боже мой, свинья такая. Один день прихожу.
Once I come to work and there are strangers at my spot. I told them it was my spot and they told me that Yura had sold the spot to them. I was shocked. Sold? How? I went home with my bags. Meanwhile, there was his pregnant mistress standing. So, how it turned out at the bottom line? He's not living with her. That woman also has a son growing up.
Не живет он с ней сейчас, и пацан же там сейчас же тоже без отца. Я когда с Юрой рассталась, я очень долго его ждала. И очень.
After breaking up with Yura, I waited for him for too long, and I tried to convince him to come home. Then I was not drinking, not a sip. I have never had it. I used to send my daughter to the shop. Then I used to ask the older daughter to take smaller children away from home. I felt that bad, then I drank. Sob.
Дочка, возьми малышей, уйди, а, уйди. До такой степени на душе плохо было. Уйдут они, да, выпьют, да, набухаюсь, наревусь, как сказать.
Then I go to sleep and that's it. And I wake up again in the morning. Again children, again problems.
Конечно, опять дети, опять свои проблемы.
Есть такие же бабушки, как я. Прошли они, как говорится, огни и воды.
There are grandmothers like me here. As they say, they went through fire and water. They experienced the same. I feel easier and better with them. There I felt worse. There was a 3-year-long school of telecommunications in Ryazan. I graduated from this school. It was 1941 when I just graduated that the war started.